There exists a particular experience that touches nearly every exceptionally intelligent individual, yet remains largely unspoken. It arrives quietly, subtly, almost imperceptibly. It emerges not during academic triumphs or moments of recognition, but in mundane instances, perhaps while you re-alone in your space or returning home after an exhausting day, when you suddenly grasp that the very quality others admire in you has simultaneously created distance between you and them. Your thinking differs, your observations differ, you comprehend things more rapidly than you can emotionally absorb them. Initially, this seems like a blessing. It seems as though existence granted you an enhanced perspective, a refined perception. Yet gradually you begin noticing something peculiar, something burdensome, something nobody prepared you for. The keener your intellect grows, the more isolated existence becomes. Because intelligence encompasses more than problem solving, it involves perceiving everything: patterns, motivations, contradictions, unspoken tensions, frequently before others recognize their presence. And when your consciousness operates faster than your present circumstances, it constructs a silent gap between you and everyone else. Not by choice, but because your cognition perpetually moves 2 steps forward, envisioning possibilities, anticipating consequences, examining meanings that most individuals never pause sufficiently to contemplate. It resembles inhabiting a space filled with dialogue, while your consciousness stands beyond the entrance, listening, evaluating, watching, yet never completely entering. If you've consistently been labeled bright, talented, perceptive, or advanced beyond your years, you likely understand this sensation precisely. And perhaps you've lacked vocabulary for it, because culture praises intelligence so emphatically that acknowledging its drawbacks feels almost improper. But drawbacks exist, a silent drawback, a concealed one, and it manifests in ways you experience profoundly, even without naming them. Perhaps it appears as expectation to comprehend everything instantly, or the assumption that you should invariably make correct choices simply because you possess superior knowledge, or that unspoken irritation you experience when you articulate something somewhat hastily, and others regard you as though you were communicating in foreign tongues? Or possibly is that peculiar combination of compassion and remoteness you experience when you perceive someone else's feelings distinctly, yet cannot convey your own with equivalent facility. You begin wondering, if intelligence supposedly aids you, why does it occasionally feel as though it complicates everything? During childhood, others might have commended you for providing correct responses, but nobody instructed you regarding what happens when responses transform into inquiries. Nobody teaches you the sensation when your intelligence begins creating separation from your surroundings. Because while others value the products of exceptional intelligence, the concepts, the innovation, the lucidity, they frequently misinterpret the internal experience of possessing it. The reality is, exceptionally intelligent individuals frequently carry invisible weights, like the weight of excessive contemplation. Not voluntarily, but because your consciousness cannot cease, reality enters you at maximum intensity. Every minor detail, every delicate tonal shift, every concealed implication, your cognition collects them automatically like a filter capturing debris in a stream, and suddenly you're processing elements most individuals bypass entirely. You detect when someone pauses before speaking. You perceive when someone feels uncomfortable despite smiling. You recognize behavioral patterns in others effortlessly. And occasionally you wish you didn't, because once you observe something, you cannot reverse that observation. Once you comprehend, you cannot return to naivety. Intelligence doesn't merely enhance your cognition, it heightens your perception, even during moments where gentleness would have been preferable. And then there's the weight of being misconstrued. You articulate something and others claim you're overanalyzing. You express a notion and others deem it excessively intricate. You attempt simplification and it still sounds as though you're communicating from an unreachable place. Eventually you begin diminishing aspects of yourself merely to assimilate. Not because you desire to dampen your intellect, but because perpetually decelerating your cognition to synchronize with your environment becomes draining. You ultimately learn self-translation, and that translation becomes an expertise you never intended acquiring. But here's something many never recognize. The greater your intelligence, the more probable you are to encounter something termed cognitive detachment. It's not emotional detachment, not social detachment. It's the sensation of existing from within outward, observing reality moving at a tempo that conflicts with your internal rhythm. It's the silent awareness that your consciousness perpetually resides elsewhere, reasoning in spirals rather than straight paths, questioning even elements most consider elementary, experiencing profoundly even during silence. It's the awareness of perpetually being somewhat misaligned with your surroundings. Most exceptionally intelligent individuals don't struggle with comprehension. They struggle with acceptance. They struggle with releasing the impulse to examine everything they experience. They struggle with the expectation of perpetually being the competent one. They struggle with the anxiety that revealing confusion or doubt will disappoint the standards others have constructed around them. And they struggle with the unspoken reality that intelligence doesn't simplify existence. It merely clarifies existence. And clarity frequently proves most painful. Because once you perceive reality with excessive clarity, its contradictions, its imperfections, its inconsistencies, it becomes more difficult existing superficially. You are perpetually descending deeper, contemplating deeper, experiencing deeper. You become the individual others consult for guidance, yet rarely the individual others genuinely comprehend. And occasionally, the most intelligent aspect about you becomes what keeps you wakeful at night. But here's something additional. Intelligence also accompanies emotional difficulties that rarely receive discussion, like the challenge of deactivating your consciousness. The manner your cognition can spiral not because something's problematic, but because your consciousness perpetually seeks significance. Or the manner you frequently revisit dialogues mentally, examining what you expressed, what they intended, what could have been interpreted differently. Sometimes you're not anxious whatsoever, you're simply contemplating at a profundity others mistake for concern. There's also the concealed expectation of capability. When others tell you you're competent, talented, gifted, those words don't simply land softly, they become standards, doorways you're expected to traverse, benchmarks you're expected to maintain. And when you fall short, even marginally, you experience that disparity more acutely than anyone else, because exceptionally intelligent individuals don't fear failure conventionally. They fear not actualizing who they believe they could become. And this creates a form of self-imposed excellence, a silent internal criterion that amplifies even minor errors. When you grasp things rapidly, others assume you'll grasp everything rapidly. When you excel at something, others assume you'll excel at everything. And suddenly, intelligence transforms from a characteristic into a responsibility. But among these concealed costs, perhaps the most agonizing one is how intelligence influences your emotional landscape. Not by rendering you detached or unfeeling, quite contrary. Many exceptionally intelligent individuals experience emotions powerfully. They simply express them distinctively. They intellectualize things that wound. They rationalize things that frighten them. They examine feelings that would have been simpler to merely experience. And it's not because they lack emotion, it's because they feel excessively to display it readily. Intelligence grants you capacity to comprehend your emotions, yet not invariably the capacity to inhabit them comfortably. You understand why you experience something well before understanding how to manage it. You can articulate your melancholy before soothing it. You can describe your solitude before alleviating it. And so you inhabit a consciousness that experiences everything distinctly, yet processes everything in isolation. It creates a peculiar contradiction. The more intelligent you are, the more challenging requesting assistance becomes, because you've been the solution provider throughout your existence, the dependable one, the one who resolves things. And even when requiring support, part of you whispers, you should manage this independently. But intelligence doesn't eliminate human requirements. It doesn't erase yearning. It doesn't immunize you against confusion, heartbreak, uncertainty, or apprehension. It simply provides more vocabulary to describe them. And occasionally, additional vocabulary renders feelings more complicated, not simpler. There's also this silent longing that exceptionally intelligent individuals rarely acknowledge. The desire for someone who comprehends you without requiring you to simplify yourself. Someone who can follow your cognition without decelerating. Someone who listens not merely to your words, but to the significance beneath them. Someone who feels like sanctuary for your consciousness, not merely your emotions. You don't require someone equally intelligent. You simply require someone willing to meet your profundity rather than fearing it. But for many, that variety of connection feels uncommon. And when something's uncommon, you begin questioning whether it's even achievable. Yet despite all this, notwithstanding the isolation, the expectation, the emotional intricacy, there exists something fundamentally human about the experience of exceptional intelligence. Because beneath every rapid cognition, every concept, every observation, every silent moment of overanalysis, there's an individual attempting their utmost to navigate a reality not designed for profundity. You're not excessive. Your consciousness isn't burdensome. Your cognitions aren't inconvenient. They're simply reflections of a cognition that feels animated in ways that can occasionally overwhelm you. A cognition that perceives reality with both sharpness and gentleness simultaneously. A cognition that has spent years attempting to balance comprehension with acceptance. And even if nobody has explicitly stated this, the truth is, nothing's wrong with you. What you're experiencing is the reality of an intricate consciousness inhabiting a straightforward world. And there's more to this narrative, considerably more, because the concealed cost of exceptional intelligence does and solely originate from others' perceptions of you. It also originates from your self-perception. There arrives a moment in every exceptionally intelligent individual's existence when they recognize their greatest misunderstanding originated not from their surroundings, but from within themselves. Because for years you may have presumed that intelligence should render everything clearer, simpler, easier. But the truth is that the more you comprehend, the more conscious you become of how much remains to comprehend. Intelligence doesn't contract reality, it expands it. And occasionally that expansion feels like standing before an immense landscape, unable to determine your next step. You begin perceiving possibilities everywhere. Every route has 10 more branching from it. Every choice opens numerous new inquiries. Every new concept leads to deeper dimensions you didn't anticipate uncovering. And while this inquisitiveness is part of what renders your consciousness extraordinary, it can also become a silent source of overwhelm. You begin experiencing not the expectation of choosing incorrectly, but the expectation of choosing everything. Because when you can envision so many potential futures, the present suddenly feels too restrictive to contain them all. This creates a peculiar form of stagnation that many exceptionally intelligent individuals experience. Not because they lack drive, but because they possess excessive. Not because they lack clarity, but because they perceive excessive perspectives. You don't struggle with direction because you're disoriented. You struggle because you comprehend excessively well. You perceive the consequence of every selection. You experience the significance of every possibility. And occasionally, you remain motionless simply because your consciousness is overcrowded with alternatives. And then there's the silent weight of being the one who grasps it. Throughout your existence, you may have been the individual who resolved things faster than your contemporaries. Educators praised you for it. Companions depended on you. Family anticipated it, and gradually that pattern becomes internalized. You begin believing that your value connects to your responses, not your inquiries, to your strength, not your uncertainty, to your clarity, not your confusion. So when you eventually face moments where you do and know what to do moments, every human being has your consciousness turns inward not with compassion, but with condemnation. You think, I should be able to resolve this. Even when the problem you're facing isn't intellectual whatsoever, but emotional. Even when the solution isn't found in logic, but in allowing yourself to be human. Exceptionally intelligent individuals often struggle most when existence requires them to be emotional rather than analytical. When clarity comes not from cognition but from vulnerability. When the response is not an insight but a connection. And because you've constructed an identity around being capable, you occasionally deny yourself the gentleness of being supported. Yet one of the most essential truths you can ever learn is this: intelligence doesn't replace humanity. It doesn't remove the requirement for comfort, patience, reassurance, or companionship. It doesn't grant you immunity from the intricacy of the heart. In fact, the heart may be the one domain where intelligence finally encounters its equivalent, because feelings don't operate on logic. They don't respond to examination. They don't unfold orderly like the stages of a problem you can solve. They transform, they fluctuate, they contradict themselves. And for someone with a deeply analytical consciousness, that unpredictability can be uncomfortable. Not because you don't experience emotions, but because you experience them intensely and attempt understanding them too rapidly. Sometimes the most intelligent individuals struggle with relationships not because they don't care, but because they care so profoundly that they overanalyze every detail. They question their own significance. They revisit moments mentally searching for the significance behind every word, every pause, every expression. They examine what they experience rather than trusting it. And this can create distance not because they lack emotion, but because they're apprehensive of overwhelming others with the intensity of what they experience. There's also the silent challenge of connecting with others when your consciousness naturally gravitates toward profundity. You desire dialogues that explore concepts, emotions, memories, significance. You desire exchanges that feel animated, multifaceted, purposeful, but reality often operates on the surface. Superficial conversation, straightforwardness, routine. And while there's beauty in straightforwardness, it can occasionally feel like you're a novel placed in a reality of brief sentences. You don't desire to be complicated, you don't desire to be excessive. You simply desire to be comprehended without requiring concealment of your inner reality. But because such moments are uncommon, you might learn keeping pieces of yourself concealed, revealing them only in the presence of those who feel sufficiently safe to comprehend them. And perhaps the profoundest cost of exceptional intelligence is the standard you place on yourself. Not the one others place on you, but the one you carry silently internally. The standard to perpetually be composed, to perpetually have a strategy, to perpetually maintain perspective, to perpetually know how to navigate your existence with precision. But intelligence doesn't protect you from human confusion. It doesn't protect you from heartbreak, disappointment, mistakes, or apprehension. It only provides you more language to describe them. And occasionally that language renders the experience sharper, not gentler. There are moments when your intelligence becomes a dual-edged instrument. You understand excessively about the hazards, you comprehend excessively deeply what can fail. You foresee conclusions before beginnings have opportunity to flourish. You comfort others with wisdom you rarely apply to yourself, because your consciousness critiques your own emotions more severely than anyone else ever would. And still, beneath all this intricacy, there exists something profoundly magnificent about possessing a consciousness that refuses to settle for the surface. Because while intelligence comes at a cost, it also comes with a silent, uncommon profundity that influences how you experience existence. You notice magnificence in things others overlook, the minor details in dialogues, the unspoken realities that sit beneath someone's smile, the manner a moment can transform a person's entire day. You perceive significance in patterns, narratives in glances, lessons in mistakes. You experience reality not as a sequence of events, but as a landscape of connections. You carry compassion not in waves, but in entire oceans. And this profundity, while occasionally overwhelming, also grants you access to a variety of insight that can transform not only your existence, but the existences of those around you. Exceptionally intelligent individuals often become the silent observers, the profound contemplators, the ones who experience reality intensely and transform that experience into comprehension. And yet, many of them carry a silent apprehension. The apprehension that their consciousness sets them apart excessively. The apprehension that they are destined to traverse existence somewhat alone. The apprehension that profundity is a distance rather than a bridge. But this apprehension is rarely accurate. Reality requires individuals who contemplate like you. Individuals who question, who envision, who comprehend the intricacies others overlook. Reality requires consciousnesses that carry both sensitivity and clarity, both logic and emotion, both awareness and compassion. The genuine challenge is not to become less intelligent. It is to become more gentle with yourself, to allow your intelligence to be an instrument for comprehension, not a weapon for self-condemnation. To let your profundity be a doorway to connection, not a reason to retreat. Because here's the truth, intelligence is not meant to isolate. It's meant to illuminate. It's meant to help you perceive reality more clearly so you can experience it more completely. It's meant to help you comprehend yourself so you can move through existence with more purpose. It's meant to help you navigate your emotions, not avoid them. But there is one more concealed cost that rarely receives articulation. The cost of being exceptionally aware in a reality that often prefers straightforwardness. When your consciousness naturally perceives patterns and implications, you become sensitive to things others dismiss. You notice inconsistencies, emotional fluctuations, unspoken tensions, and while this awareness is a strength, it can also be draining when reality expects you to accept things at surface value. There will be times when your comprehension makes you feel older than your age. Times when you feel like you've inhabited multiple emotional lifetimes in a single day. Times when your compassion feels too expansive for your own heart. Times when your cognitions feel too loud for the moment you're in. But none of this means you're difficult or detached. It means your consciousness is awake. It means your heart is engaged. It means you are not drifting through existence half-aware. You are completely present, even in the moments that challenge you. And perhaps the most healing truth you can embrace is that intelligence doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require certainty. It doesn't require constant control. Sometimes the strongest thing a brilliant consciousness can do is release. Release the expectation. Release the standards. Release the belief that you must perpetually be ahead. Because the genuine gift of intelligence is not in contemplating faster than others. It's in perceiving deeper than the moment. It's in recognizing significance where others perceive routine. It's in comprehending emotions with a clarity that can help you grow, not merely examine. You don't have to carry reality alone simply because you can comprehend it more clearly. You don't have to resolve every problem simply because you perceive it before others do. You don't have to conceal your profundity simply because it's uncommon. You are permitted to decelerate. You are permitted to experience uncertainty. You are permitted to be human in the places where your intelligence has made you feel responsible. In moments of doubt, remember this. The consciousness you possess is not burdensome, it is a lantern. It illuminates things others may bypass. It shows you possibilities others don't contemplate. It reveals truths that help you navigate your path with greater awareness. And while that illumination occasionally makes reality feel heavier, it also allows you to perceive magnificence with a level of detail that few individuals ever experience. The concealed cost of exceptional intelligence is real, but so is the concealed magnificence. The magnificence of growing not merely in knowledge, but in wisdom. You are not alone in these experiences, and you are not meant to traverse existence feeling separated from others. Reality is full of individuals who contemplate profoundly, who experience intensely, who question their place, who seek significance. You may not invariably perceive them, but they exist. And when you meet them, whether in friendships, relationships, or even brief passing moments, you will recognize that intelligence doesn't isolate perpetually. It attracts the variety of consciousnesses that resonate with yours, even silently. And when that occurs, something extraordinary unfolds. You begin perceiving that your intelligence was never the thing that separated you. It was the thing leading you toward the individuals who would finally feel like sanctuary. Because the ultimate truth is this: the cost of exceptional intelligence is real, but the reward is equally real. And that reward is the capacity to inhabit an existence filled with profundity, significance, inquisitiveness, connection, and a fundamental awareness of what it means to be human. Your consciousness is not a weight, it is a gift. An uncommon one, a remarkable one. One that comes with intricacy, but also with immense magnificence. And as you move forward, the greatest transformation will come not from attempting to alter your consciousness, but from learning to trust it, to embrace the manner it contemplates, to honor the manner it experiences, to allow it to be both analytical and emotional, both logical and sensitive, both structured and free. Because in the end, intelligence is not about being ahead of others. It's about being aligned with yourself. And once you comprehend that, the concealed cost begins feeling less like a burden and more like a path toward a deeper existence. a path toward a truer self. A path toward a reality where your consciousness is not something you carry alone, but something you share, gently, authentically, courageously, with the individuals who appreciate it most.